It started the moment Emily heard a baby laugh, even though she was completely alone and her child was not even born yet. Emily Carter was 29 years old and 7 months pregnant. She was a single mother who worked late nights just to give her unborn baby a better life. That night, it was already past 2 in the morning when she left her office. The streets were empty, cold, and strangely silent. There were no cars, no people, not even stray dogs. The silence felt unnatural, almost like the world had stopped breathing. As she walked under a flickering streetlight, she noticed something lying in the middle of the road. It was a doll. It looked old, dirty, and broken, with its face pressed against the ground. Emily slowed down for a moment, staring at it with discomfort. Something about it felt wrong, deeply wrong. She shook her head and whispered to herself that it was none of her concern. She turned away and continued walking. After a few steps, she suddenly heard a soft giggle behind her. It was the clear sound of a child laughing. Emily froze instantly. Her heart started pounding as she slowly turned around. The doll was still there, but now it was no longer facing the ground. Its face was turned toward her. Its eyes were open, staring directly at her as if it had always been watching. A strange fear crawled into her chest. She tried to convince herself that she was just tired and that her pregnancy hormones were playing tricks on her mind. But even as she tried to walk away again, she felt something pulling her back. It was not a physical force, but something deeper, something inside her head. It felt like a whisper telling her to go back and pick it up. Her hands began to shake as she slowly walked back toward the doll. She knelt down and picked it up. The moment her fingers touched it, a freezing cold sensation ran through her body. The doll felt like ice, unnatural and lifeless. For a brief second, she thought she felt its lips move, but she quickly pulled her hand back, breathing heavily. When she reached her apartment, she locked the door behind her and placed the doll on a table. She avoided looking at it directly. She told herself she would throw it away in the morning, but deep down, she already knew she wouldn't. There was something about it that made her unable to let it go. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The air in her room felt heavy, suffocating. Her baby started moving inside her stomach, but the movements were not normal. They were stronger, sharper, almost aggressive, like something was pushing against her from the inside. She placed her hand on her belly, trying to calm it down, whispering softly that everything was okay. Suddenly, she heard a faint voice. It was not coming from outside. It felt like it came from somewhere very close. The voice whispered something that made her blood run cold. It told her that the baby inside her was not hers. Emily sat up in bed, her heart racing, her eyes scanning the dark room. Everything was silent. Slowly, her eyes moved toward the table where she had placed the doll. The table was empty. The doll was gone. Panic spread through her body as she stood up and stepped into the hallway. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. Then she saw it. The doll was sitting on the floor, much closer to her bedroom than before, facing her like it had been waiting. Emily stepped back, her hand gripping her stomach. Her baby kicked again, this time so hard that it made her gasp in pain. And then she heard something that shattered her completely. A small, clear voice came from inside her own belly. It called her mom. Emily screamed at the top of her lungs. In the next moment, everything went still. She found herself lying in her bed, sweating heavily, breathing fast as morning light filled the room. She told herself it was just a nightmare, just a horrible dream caused by stress and fear. But when she turned her head slowly, her body froze again. The doll was sitting right beside her on the bed, and it was smiling. Emily couldn't move. Her body felt frozen as she stared at the doll sitting beside her on the bed. Its cracked lips were stretched into a faint, unnatural smile. Its eyes were wide open, fixed on her face without blinking. For a few seconds, Emily forgot how to breathe. Then suddenly, she pushed herself back, almost falling off the bed. Her heart was racing so fast it felt like it would burst. "This is not real," she whispered to herself again and again. "This is not real." Her hands were shaking as she looked around the room, trying to make sense of what was happening. Morning light filled the apartment, making everything look normal. Too normal. Slowly, she gathered the courage to look back at the bed. The doll was gone. Emily blinked in confusion. She quickly stood up and checked the entire room. The table, the hallway, the kitchen. Nothing. It had completely disappeared, as if it had never been there. For a moment, she felt relief. Maybe it really was just a nightmare. But that relief didn't last long. As she walked into the bathroom to wash her face, she turned on the tap and splashed cold water on her skin. Her breathing slowly started to calm down. She looked up at the mirror and froze. Her hands, they were covered in blood. Fresh, dark red blood dripping from her fingers into the sink. Emily screamed and stumbled back, her heart pounding in terror. She quickly looked down at her hands again. They were clean, completely clean. No blood, no cuts, nothing. Her breathing became uneven. "I'm losing my mind," she whispered. "This is because of the pregnancy, it has to be." But deep inside, she knew something was wrong. Something was very wrong. The rest of the day felt heavy and slow. Emily couldn't focus on anything. Every small sound made her jump. Every shadow felt alive. She tried to stay busy, telling herself she needed to stay strong for her baby. But the baby, it wasn't normal anymore. By afternoon, the movements inside her stomach became more intense. It didn't feel like soft kicks anymore. It felt like something crawling, something turning in ways that didn't feel human. Emily sat on the couch, holding her belly tightly. "Please stop," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. Then suddenly, her stomach shifted. Not a kick, not a movement, a shape, a clear, visible shape pressed outward from inside her belly, as if something was trying to push its way out. Emily gasped and backed away, her hands trembling. She could see it move under her skin, sliding from one side to another. And then, it stopped. Silence filled the room again. Emily sat there, unable to move, unable to think. That night, things got worse. She tried to sleep, but the moment she closed her eyes, she started hearing sounds. At first, it was faint crying, the sound of babies crying somewhere inside the apartment. She sat up, listening carefully. The crying grew louder. Then it changed. It wasn't just babies anymore. Now there were women screaming. Desperate, painful screams echoing through the walls. Emily covered her ears, shaking her head. "Stop, please stop," she cried. The noises suddenly ended. Complete silence. For a moment, she thought it was over. Then, a loud knock hit her front door. Emily jumped in fear. Another knock, harder this time. Someone was banging on the door violently, over and over again. Emily slowly got out of bed, her legs weak. She walked toward the door, her heart pounding with every step. The knocking continued, louder and more aggressive, as if someone was trying to break in. Her hand reached the handle. She hesitated for a second. Then she opened the door. No one was there. The hallway was completely empty. Cold air rushed inside. Emily stepped back slowly, her body shaking. And then she heard it again. This time, right behind her. A soft giggle, coming from inside the apartment. Emily turned around slowly. The doll was sitting in the middle of the room, looking at her, waiting. Emily stood frozen at the doorway, unable to breathe, unable to blink. The doll was sitting in the middle of the room exactly where nothing had been just seconds ago. Its head was slightly tilted, and its eyes were locked onto her face as if it had been waiting for her to turn around. Her hand slipped off the door handle as she slowly stepped backward into the apartment. Her mind was screaming at her to run, to leave everything behind and escape, but her body refused to move properly. It felt like the walls themselves were closing in on her. "I didn't bring you here for this," she whispered weakly, her voice shaking. The doll didn't move, but something changed. Emily felt it immediately. The air grew heavier, colder, thicker. It became hard to breathe, like something invisible was filling the room. Her chest tightened as she took slow, careful steps away from the door. Her eyes never left the doll. Then suddenly, it blinked. Emily gasped and stumbled back, hitting the wall behind her. "No, no, no," she muttered, shaking her head. That's not possible. But it had happened. She saw it. The doll's eyes had closed and opened again. Tears filled her eyes as fear took over her completely. She turned and ran to her bedroom, slamming the door shut behind her. She locked it quickly and backed away until her legs gave out and she fell onto the floor. Her hands moved to her stomach again. The baby was moving, but this time, it wasn't just movement. It felt like fingers. Small, sharp fingers pressing from inside, dragging slowly across her skin from within. Emily cried out in pain, clutching her belly. "Stop, please stop." Then she heard it again. That same small voice. Clear, close, inside her. "Let me out." Emily's eyes widened in pure horror. Her breathing became fast, and broken as she shook her head violently. "No, you're my baby. You're my baby," she whispered desperately. But deep down, she no longer believed that. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. She didn't know. Time didn't feel real anymore. The apartment was silent again, but the silence felt worse than the noise. It felt like something was waiting, watching. Emily slowly lifted her head. Her bedroom door. It was moving. The handle was slowly turning. Emily froze. She had locked it. She was sure of it. The handle kept turning, slowly, gently, like someone on the other side was trying not to make noise. Then it stopped. Silence. Emily held her breath. And then, a soft scratching sound began, right behind the door, like nails dragging slowly across the wood. Emily covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. The scratching continued. Long, slow, patient. Then came the whispers. Many voices. Children, women, all speaking at once, too low to understand clearly. But one sentence became clear. She brought it home. Emily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Leave me alone, please." The whispers suddenly stopped. Dead silence filled the room again. For a moment, she thought it was over. Then she felt something wet on her feet. Emily looked down slowly. A dark red liquid was spreading across the floor. Blood. It was seeping in from under the door. Her body went numb as she stared at it, unable to react. The blood kept spreading, inch by inch, covering the floor around her. Then, a small hand pressed against the bottom gap of the door from the other side. Tiny, pale, not human. Its fingers were too long, too thin. Emily screamed and crawled backward until her back hit the bed. The small hand slowly slid away. The blood stopped moving. Everything went silent again. Emily stayed there for a long time, shaking, unable to think. Finally, after what felt like forever, she forced herself to stand up. Her legs were weak as she stepped toward the door. She hesitated, then slowly unlocked it and opened it. The hallway was completely clean. No blood, no hand, nothing. Emily stared in disbelief. Her breathing slowed slightly as confusion mixed with fear. "Was it all in my head?" she whispered. Then she felt it again, a movement inside her stomach. But this time, it wasn't painful. It was controlled, slow, deliberate, like something inside her was turning. To face her, Emily's entire body went cold, because for the first time, she could feel it clearly. Whatever was inside her was not her baby anymore. Emily didn't sleep that night. She sat in the corner of her bedroom, her back pressed against the wall, her eyes wide open as she stared at the door. Every second felt stretched, heavy, unreal. Her body was exhausted, but her mind refused to rest. She was too afraid to close her eyes, because every time she blinked, she saw them. Children, dozens of them, standing in the dark, staring at her with hollow eyes. Some were crying, some were smiling, and some were missing parts of their faces. By morning, Emily looked like a completely different person. Her skin was pale, her eyes sunken, her lips dry and cracked. She looked at herself in the mirror, barely recognizing the woman staring back at her. I'm fine," she whispered. But her voice didn't sound like her own. That's when she noticed something. Her stomach. It had grown. Not slowly like a normal pregnancy, but suddenly, unnaturally. It looked bigger than it did just a few hours ago. Emily touched it with trembling hands. The skin felt tight, stretched, almost like something inside was pushing too hard against it. Then, it moved. Not like before. This time it was slow, deliberate. A shape pressed outward from her stomach again. But now it was clearer. It looked like a small head, pushing from the inside. Emily screamed and stepped back, hitting the sink behind her. Tears ran down her face as she shook her head violently. "No, this is not happening. This is not real." The shape slowly dragged across her stomach from left to right, stretching her skin as it moved. And then it stopped, right in the center. Emily held her breath. For a second, everything went still. Then, her skin split, just a little. A thin, painful crack appeared across her stomach. Emily let out a horrifying scream as she grabbed her belly. Blood slowly started to leak from the small opening. And from inside, something moved. A tiny finger pushed against the crack from within. Emily collapsed to the floor, shaking uncontrollably. "Please stop, please," she cried, her voice breaking. The finger slowly pulled back inside. The crack on her skin closed, like it had never been there. But the blood remained, dripping, real, Emily stared at her hands, now covered in blood again. This time, it didn't disappear. This time, it stayed. That was the moment she understood. This was not in her head. This was real, and whatever was inside her was alive. She spent the rest of the day trying to leave the apartment. She packed a bag. She opened the door. But every time she stepped outside, she heard the crying, loud, painful, coming from inside her own body. The moment she stepped back inside, the crying stopped. It didn't want her to leave. By evening, Emily was completely broken. She sat on the floor, staring at the doll placed in front of her. "I'll get rid of you," she whispered weakly. "I'll burn you. I'll destroy you." The doll didn't move, but its smile grew wider. Emily grabbed it with shaking hands and rushed into the kitchen. She turned on the stove, her heart pounding as she held the doll over the flame. "This ends now." The fire touched the doll's foot. For a second, nothing happened. Then, Emily screamed. A sharp, unbearable pain exploded inside her stomach. She dropped the doll instantly, falling to her knees. It felt like something inside her was burning, twisting, screaming. Emily clutched her belly, crying in agony. "Stop, please stop." The pain slowly faded. She looked up. The doll was lying on the floor, completely unharmed. Not even a mark. Emily's hands began to tremble again. Her breathing became slow, broken, because now she understood something even worse. The doll was not just connected to her. It was inside her. She looked down at her stomach one more time, and this time, she saw it clearly, a small shape pressing outward again. But now, it wasn't trying to get out. It was smiling from inside. If you think this is already too much, the worst part hasn't even begun. What happens next will destroy everything she believes about her child. Emily stopped fighting, not because she accepted it, but because she no longer had the strength to resist. Her body felt weak, drained, like something inside her was slowly taking control. She hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. She hadn't slept at all. Every time she tried to close her eyes, she saw the same thing. Children staring at her. Not normal children. Broken ones. Some with empty eye sockets. Some with twisted limbs. All of them whispering the same thing. Let it come out. By night, Emily could barely stand. She dragged herself to the bed, holding her stomach as another wave of pain hit her. But this wasn't like before. This pain was different. Stronger. Deeper. Final. Her breathing became heavy as she realized what was happening. "No, it's too early," she whispered in fear. But deep down, she knew this wasn't a normal birth. Her body arched in pain as something inside her pushed downward. It felt violent, unnatural, like her body was not ready for what was coming. Then, the lights went out. The entire apartment fell into darkness. Emily froze, and in that darkness, she heard them, the whispers again, closer than ever. All around her, children, women, crying, laughing, screaming. "You promised. You brought it. Now give it back." Emily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't promise anything. I didn't do anything," she cried. But the voices didn't stop. They only got louder. Her body suddenly jerked forward as a sharp pain tore through her stomach. She screamed, gripping the bedsheets tightly. Something was coming out, but not the way it should. The pain was wrong. Everything was wrong. Emily felt something moving inside her, twisting violently, forcing its way out in a way that made her body feel like it was breaking apart. Then, she heard it, a small laugh, not from outside, from between her own legs. Emily's eyes widened in pure terror. No, her body pushed again, harder this time. She screamed as something finally began to emerge. But it wasn't a baby. It was too small, too stiff, too cold. Emily cried as she forced herself to look down, and what she saw destroyed her completely. It was the doll, covered in blood, its eyes open, its lips stretched into a wide, horrifying smile. Emily's scream echoed through the apartment as the doll slowly slid out onto the bed. Her entire body shook violently as she stared at it, unable to process what had just happened. This isn't real," she whispered. But it was. The doll moved. Slowly, its head turned toward her, and then it laughed, the same childish giggle she heard on the street. Emily tried to move, but her body wouldn't respond. She felt weak, empty, like something had been taken from her. Then she felt it, inside her stomach. Movement. Again, Emily's heart stopped. No, it's over. It has to be over. But it wasn't. Her stomach began to shift again, violently this time. Something was still inside her. Something bigger, stronger. Her breathing became fast as panic returned 10 times worse than before. The doll on the bed slowly sat up, watching her, waiting, like it had only been the beginning. Emily screamed again as her stomach expanded unnaturally, stretching far beyond what was possible. And then, a deep voice came from inside her. Not a child's voice, not human, cold, empty. You opened the door. Emily's entire body went numb. Tears rolled down her face as she realized the truth. The doll was never the real horror. It was just the beginning. Something else was coming. Something far worse. And this time, it wasn't going to be small. Emily couldn't scream anymore. Her voice was gone. Her body lay twisted on the bed, shaking uncontrollably as the pain inside her grew beyond anything human. It no longer felt like something was trying to come out. It felt like something was taking over. Her stomach stretched higher, tighter, as if her skin could tear open at any second. The veins across her body darkened, spreading slowly like something poisonous was moving through her blood. The doll sat at the edge of the bed, completely still, watching her, waiting. Emily tried to move her hands, but they felt heavy, numb. Her fingers twitched slightly, but they didn't feel like hers anymore. Even her breathing had changed. It was slower, deeper, unnatural. "I don't want this," she whispered weakly. But something inside her answered. "You already chose this." Her eyes widened in fear. That voice, it wasn't coming from her stomach anymore. It was coming from her throat. Emily's hand slowly moved to her neck. She could feel something vibrating inside, like another voice was trying to push its way out through her. Her body suddenly arched upward as a violent force surged through her. Her mouth opened wide, and a dark liquid spilled out. Thick, black, not blood, something else. Emily choked as more of it poured out onto the bed, her entire body shaking as if she was being emptied from the inside. The doll slowly stood up. For the first time, it moved on its own. It walked toward her, step by step, its small feet leaving no sound behind. It climbed onto her chest and leaned close to her face. Emily tried to push it away, but her arms didn't respond. She could only watch. The doll's face came inches from hers. Its smile widened unnaturally. Then, its mouth opened, far too wide, wider than any human mouth could. And from inside, something moved, something alive. Emily's eyes filled with tears as she tried to turn her head away, but she couldn't. Her body was no longer under her control. The thing inside the doll began to come out, slowly, stretching, expanding. It wasn't small anymore. It was growing. Its shape was wrong, constantly shifting, like it didn't belong to this world. Dark, twisted limbs began to crawl out from inside the doll's mouth, unfolding like something that had been trapped for a long time. Emily's body reacted instantly. Her stomach dropped flat, empty, completely empty. Whatever had been inside her was gone. Now it was here, in front of her. The creature continued to grow, its body expanding until it was no longer the size of a doll. It stood on the bed, towering over her, its form unstable, constantly changing, as if it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. But one thing became clear. Its face. Slowly, its shifting features settled into something familiar, something horrifying. It became Emily's face, but twisted, smiling, dead. Emily's eyes widened in absolute terror. "No," she whispered. The creature tilted its head, copying her expression perfectly. "You gave me life," it said softly. Emily shook her head weakly, tears sliding down her temples. "You're not real, you're not real." The creature smiled wider. "I am you." In that moment, Emily felt something snap inside her. Her thoughts slowed. Her fear faded. Her body stopped shaking, because something else was taking its place. Silence. Complete silence. Her eyes slowly lost their emotion. Her breathing stopped. And just like that, Emily Carter was gone. The next morning, the apartment door was found open. Neighbors reported hearing nothing. No screams. No noise. Nothing at all. Inside, the apartment looked normal. Clean. Quiet. Empty. There was no blood. No signs of struggle. No body. Nothing. Except one thing. On the bed, a doll sat silently. Clean. Unbroken. Smiling. But this time, it looked different. It looked new. Its skin was smoother. Its eyes were alive. And its face looked exactly like Emily. Subscribe for more horror stories, and don't forget to comment what you think really happened.